Good morning. I've been given, my name is David Sequeira, and I've been given two instructions today. One from Father Patrick, 10 minutes, stanza and no more, or else. And the other one is from my good friend Benny, who's taking the film today. I don't know where you are, Benny, but you're supposed to speak up. Is that loud enough, Benny? Right. Are you loud enough? Is that loud enough? Fine. That's right, thank you. Well, I have 10 minutes to summarize 60 years of friendship. Very difficult, but try my best. Alan and I grew up in Mombasa, in East Africa, which is Kenya, in a small island called Mombasa, as I just said, with a very small population, 100,000, but everyone knew each other. There was only one school for people from certain communities, and we went to that school. And everyone, and I mean everyone, knew everyone else, including their families, good and bad. And Alan and I were friends from an early age, 14, 15. Our friendship really took off when we both started being interested in the guitar. I think Alan started before me with, his dad was a very good guitarist and he had a relative of a fantastic pianist, and he quickly learned. And when I started, he was well ahead of me, but anyway, we used to, exchange chords and that sort of thing. But that's where the friendship started, and music was really the glue that kept us together. And that has continued, and did continue for 60 years or so. I knew Alan. When we were in Mombasa as 14, 15-year-olds, I always remember making fun of Alan because we had a good laugh because he carried a comb. And of course, at that age, combs, only sissies carry combs. Boys like us never combed our hair and never ever carried combs. So we teased Alan endlessly. So we used to find out from Anita that till his dying day, Alan was very particular about his hair and still had his comb. Is that right, Anita? And he was also very particular about his looks. And if you look at the photograph up there, once again, Alan got a better shirt than I ever had. And I always admired the shirts he wore at the many parties we went to. Anyway, when at the end of our school days, Alan started playing various bands. I wasn't up to it yet, but in the end, I left school. I did go to another school for 2 years, and I started a band with Alan. And in this booklet, you see at the back of the booklet a photograph of us, 18 years old. I'm afraid, very youthful looking, with all our hair, and really excited about life. We were playing at a hotel, the Nyani Beach Hotel, on the coast. We played every weekend. It was fantastic. Alan then left for England and went up north. Eventually ended up in Wimbledon, and I followed, but not with him, but followed, and lived in Wimbledon about 6 months after he started to live there with his family. The one thing I do remember vividly, when, as a young 18-year-old on my own, at the YMCA in Wimbledon, pretty homesick and pretty dumb about what one should do to make friends and so on. Alan's family were extremely supportive. I remember going on many times without announcing myself. We didn't have mobile phones or phones for that matter. In the evenings, having watching television, and always being invited to a meal. And Alan's dad, Mr. Rook, who had just spent quite a few months trying to find a job. Alan had lost his mother only a few months ago, so he was grieving. And Mr. Rook had 5 children to look after. Never once did he show any disapproval about me visiting the family. Thank you, Mr. Rook, and thank you, Alan. And I think this is a feature of Alan's character. When I spoke to him about it afterwards and said how grateful I was and how helpful his family had been. He just looked at me, he said nothing, and smiled. A quiet smile. That was the man. When we were in England, I soon realized that my parents couldn't support me to follow my studies, and I had to work. So I mentioned to him, I said, "Oh, why don't you come and join me? I've got this temporary job in Park Royal, which is about 2 hours, 1 hour there, 1 hour back, and you can join me if you like." And I did. I joined him, and we did this very menial job, but it was really, really enjoyable, because we spent 2 hours on the train, and as we used to say, yamming, God knows about what, but we did. We were never bored, and we did the job, and it was we had an Irish boss who was very, very nice man. He looked after us, and it wasn't work, it was just fun. And what I remember on the train was talking about the funny British way of life. And mainly, we talked mainly about food. And one of the things that we were always, I think most people realize that food is pretty important on the agenda. But one thing that we were discovering was the different British foods. And one day we went to the restaurant, and I said to Alan, "Do you realize that English people eat toads?" And he said, "What? Toads? Don't be silly." I said, "It's on the menu, toad in the hole. And they all eat toads here." He said, "Oh, don't be silly." But there you go. That was toad in the hole. Then we found about, Cornish people who put cream in their tea and so on. And Scottish people who had special hens who ate Scotch eggs and so on. So this was the sort of environment we had a good fun about. The biggest joke we had was when we went into a restaurant and we were told by our elders, "Make sure you have a good warm pudding as often as possible. In England it gets very cold and it'll keep you warm." So we went into this restaurant and said, "Guess what they've got? They've got something that's perfect for us." "What's that?" "Yorkshire pudding." And you realize when we realized it wasn't a pudding, we said, funny people. I can say this, by the way, because my wife's English, so that's okay. Anyway, we soon started a band, and in the early days, it was quite amusing. We used to travel around by tube and taxi, and many sitting over there used to be one of the band, and we used to travel all over the place, and not surprisingly, it cost us more for the gig than what we got paid, but we really enjoyed it. And we got on, and later on in life, things got a little better, and we got transportation and so on. And I remember at the time, my current wife was my girlfriend, and I remember at a gig, Ellen, she told me this later on, starting out to her and saying, you know, Pam, I'm trying to remember what he said now. What is it he said? I wrote it down. Pam, you remember, won't you? Yeah, that's what he said. He said, you know, Pam, when we were in Mombasa, Denzel was a cocky little bugger. And I think she said, I know, he's a big bugger now. Anyway, that was Alan, that was his humour. And what was even more annoying was that if any of you have seen Alan dancing, and there's reference in this booklet about his dancing, and if you saw Anita and Alan on the floor, you wouldn't tell the floor yourself. But Alan was a really slick dancer, cool, laid back, and very, very competent. And he's one of those dancers who seemed to do nothing, but was doing everything and looking pretty good. And what annoyed me most was Pam, my wife Pam, who was not terribly keen on dancing with me, I don't know why, was always keen to dance with Alan. Anyway, life went on, and Alan then progressed to play on ships with Benny and other friends and various other bands. It's all in the book that you'll see at the wake. And you won't see me there because I wasn't good enough. He dumped me at the time, I'm afraid, and went on to do better things than other musicians. And he continued, enjoying music and playing and partying and doing all the other things. till he married Anita in 1985. Then I'm afraid it got even more bottom and more enjoyable and more fun. And it's clear from the very beginning that the match was made in heaven. They adored each other. Alan couldn't do enough for Anita. They traveled all over the world. They went on cruises and everything that young couples would normally do, and they certainly did. As this time went on and we all got more progressive in our lives and things settled down, we enjoyed many lovely dinners in Wallington, at the lovely home Alan and Anita had, and that continued for many years till unfortunately 2 years ago when Alan contracted a problem with his kidney. I have to say, I realized that how serious it was, but didn't quite at the time. But it gradually deteriorated, and I must say at this stage that Anita did everything possible to make his life comfortable and easy. She had to go several times a week to the hospital for dialysis treatment. I never once heard her complaining about a lot and the restrictions that were imposed. And now that I hear Alan, and I can tell you that every time I called Alan, we would have a good laugh. In fact, I was reading this, the booklet just now, and there's a bit here which I hope I can read. I haven't got my glasses. It says here, laugh as you always laughed at the little sides, at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Laugh as you always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. And believe me, Alan and I always did. I have a beautiful photograph at my son's wedding where Alan and I, in full flight, obviously talking about something pretty minor, but laughing our heads off. And that was me and Alan. Anita, thank you on behalf of all of Alan's friends for taking care of him. And Alan, I'm sure you're listening out there. Do remember the one occasion, I'm looking for it, I wrote it down. We were together all those years ago in Mombasa. It was a time when Louis Armstrong decided a concert in Mombasa. Louis Armstrong, for those who don't know, is a very international famous trumpeter, musician, singer, actor, and so on. And he did a concert in Mombasa, a very small town, and clearly just to show his interest in Africa, Kenya. And Alan and I managed to get tickets, and we watched open mouth. First concert we'd ever been to. And this is what Louis Armstrong says about musicians. I'll read it out. Musicians don't retire, they stop when there is no music in them. I think that's undecided. There's no music. So he went somewhere else. Rest in peace, Alan.
Before we go our separate ways, let us take leave of our brother Alan. May our farewell express our affection for him. May it ease our sadness and strengthen our hope.